Newcastle want Cavani, Jose plans a double swoop, the Eredivisie is set to be cancelled, a transfer roundup and this week's great debate all coming up in the next few minutes as I'm your host Matt Folick, you are the One Footballers and this is the Daily News. First off, and yes, you did hear me correctly, apparently Newcastle United want Edinson Cavani. He would be their marquee signing should the takeover, which looks like it's almost done, go through in the next few months. Now you're probably thinking, Matt, this is just paper talk, it's absolute nonsense, and yes I agree, but wouldn't it be rather interesting? Now, I'm not saying it's completely out the realm of possibility because Cavani's contract is expiring. Along with this, there's also talk they're going to try and bring in Willian from Chelsea, and that one seems even more likely to me because he's already in the Premier League. If Newcastle were to sign these players just outright, they'd have to go and buy them off PSG, and I reckon even if Newcastle phoned up PSG, they'd probably put the phone down and say you can't be serious. But the fact their contract's expiring means not only do they get to talk to the player straight up and try and convince him before going through the club, but secondly, they won't have to pay a transfer fee. So even if a massive player like Cavani or Willian or whoever else isn't necessarily interested to going to Newcastle, they could basically just slap like 300 or 400k a week down on the table, and that will probably be enough to turn most heads in professional football. Of course, on top of all this, there have been reports, as I mentioned very quickly yesterday, that Newcastle are also interested in replacing Steve Bruce. Now, it's a little bit harsh, and he's just come in the season, and he's done an okay job with the resources that he's got, but let's be honest here, if Newcastle are going to go forward with a brand new multi-million pound project signing unbelievable players, they can't exactly trust this money or these players with Steve Bruce, who hasn't really had any experience at the top of the management game. So, who are they going to bring in? Well, the two names being thrown around are Mauricio Pochettino and Max Allegri. Both of them are out of contract. Well, I say that, they don't have a club, but I think Pochettino is definitely the more likely of replacements. He's spoken again how much he'd love to stay in the Premier League, how much he loves the Premier League and is still living in England, so that one seems a little bit more possible. Plus, when it comes to taking over a, mid-table side, Spurs weren't that bad, but a sort of side who needs improving and has a whole project in mind, Pochettino's already got the proof that he can take them to a new level. When it comes to winning things, that's another matter, but Newcastle have got to get in the conversation first before actually lifting some titles. And talking of Mauricio Pochettino, well, his former club Spurs, and apparently the new boss Jose Mourinho is planning a massive double swoop this summer. According to reports, both West Ham's Issa Diop and Wolves forward Raul Jimenez are on the target list for Spurs, but it may set them back around £100 million. Now, with two of these transfers, I think the most likely has to be Issa Diop. It's clear since he's come into West Ham that he is a top quality defender, and this all stems from Jose Mourinho's post-match press conference when West Ham played against Manchester United, as he described the centre-back as a monster and lavished praise on him after a fantastic performance. This is probably where the link comes in. If you add that to the fact that Spurs have a shocking defensive record, plus they've got players out of contract in the summer and they've got, an ageing central defence if you take into account Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen, this transfer deal does make sense. West Ham are constantly underperforming. They're a mid-table side and Spurs are just a bigger club with more money to throw around. So that seems more probable, I'd say, even though not definitely probable, than Raul Jimenez leaving Wolves. Now, we discussed it last week when Raul Jimenez was linked with Manchester United and even very tenuously with Real Madrid. I don't think he's leaving Wolves for Spurs. So when you take into account the fact that Spurs are looking at Jimenez regardless of what happens with Harry Kane's future, that already puts one nail in the coffin of this move. There is no way that Jimenez is going to go from being the star man at Wolves, this team that's pushing for Champions League spots, if anything, the team that is doing really well in the Premier League, to go and sit on the bench behind Harry Kane. In fact, no striker in the prime of their career, as Jimenez is 29 years old, is going to go and do that. As a replacement, yes, potentially that might happen, but a lot does rest on what happens with Harry Kane in the summer. And even if he does go, he would be a good replacement, but are Wolves going to let him go? Is Raul Jimenez going to want to leave? There's definitely a direction that Wolves are heading in, this way, and Spurs are heading in, this way. So I'm not actually sure whether or not he would make the switch. Regardless, personally, from a Spurs fan's point of view, I think Issa Diop is far more of an interesting proposition, far more attainable, and far more important because, the defence has been pretty shoddy this season. But from football transfers and lots of football to football that may be cancelled, and unfortunately that is the Eredivisie in Holland. Yesterday, the country made the decision to ban all public events until the 1st of December. Amid the COVID-19 panic, and it looks like football will be no exception. They want the fans to be involved, as they always do, because so many of the clubs are in such a dire financial situation that even playing the rest of the league may put their whole existence in doubt. What it means, though, unfortunately, is though you're already used to seeing the likes of PSV, Feyenoord, Ajax win the title, this season is a rather interesting season in the Eredivisie. As I said, Alkmaar are making a real go of it and are actually level on points with Ajax at the top of the table with quite a few games to go. I mean, if anything, it wouldn't be so bad if like the relegation and the European spots for the title winner was already decided. But the fact that AZ are on the brink of an outrageous title victory makes it all the more sad that the division might be cancelled. The same thing's going on in Serie A. Like, if Juventus were flying away with the title, I wouldn't really care. But the fact that Lazio are in with a chance of actually doing it makes it all the more exciting, and you definitely want the league to continue. Anyway, on the flip side of this, apparently in Sweden they're saying that the football will return with fans in the middle of June. Anyway, a quick roundup of the rest of the day's transfer news. Real Madrid are going to offer Luka Jovic in return for Fabian Ruiz from Napoli in the hope that they don't have to pay his £70 million price tag. Saint Etienne have tied down highly rated defender Wesley Fofana to a new deal. Barcelona are the latest club to be linked with signing Timo Werner, and Inter Milan have opened contract talks with Liverpool target Marcelo Brozovic in the bid to keep the Croatian at the club. So lastly but not least, we come to this week's great debate where we pose a question to all of you guys in the comment section down below. And today, it's a pretty good one. Which two strikers would you have as a striking partnership who have never played together? So that doesn't mean you can pick like Mbappe and Cavani or, I don't know, Ronaldo and Benzema. Two strikers who have never played together that you would love to see. For me, it's going to be Eric Cantona and Dimitar Berbatov. Don't get me wrong, there'd be like no running involved. It'd be an incredibly lazy front line, but when they get the ball, it would just be unbelievable. I can almost guarantee they'd make something happen. It'd be an outrageous piece of skill for Dimitar Berbatov, or Eric Cantona would just produce a moment of magic and win the game. Those two by far are two of the most skillful players who have ever played the Premier League, and yeah, just a partnership of them two would be absolutely brilliant to watch, worth the entrance money alone. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts on the great debate down below and the rest of today's daily news. Whilst you're at it, you can also smash the like button and click here or here to check out all of the other videos we've got going on OneFootball. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.